Greetings, and welcome to another Todd Talk, where we take teaching theory and turn it into teaching practice. Today, what we're going to be talking about is one in a series of videos on differentiating up. So, how can you differentiate in your classroom? One way is to plan for it, and how to plan for it is by creating tiered lessons. When you hear the word tiered, what you often think of is what you see here, which is the multi tiered system of supports. And so when typically our mindset when it comes to this particular setup is tier number one is the core instruction that everyone is going to get. And then tier two are making slight adjustments, usually in the name of, as you can see on this, for IEP students or students that are struggling. And then tier three is for intensive intervention. So these are students who are really struggling or really need help in what they're doing. But that's not how MTSS is set up. MTSS is set up more like what you see here in this diamond shape. And so the tiers actually go both ways. And so you have your tier one, which is your core instruction that is in the center. And then you go in one direction, like I said, tier two and tier three is a little bit of intervention and a lot of bit of intervention. But it also goes the other way, where you have tier two for the differentiating up is when you are giving targeted enrichment. So this is maybe you have a mixed ability classroom and you are trying to meet the needs of those particular students. And this is why we use tiered lessons in order to do this. Tier three enrichment is more like a resource room, a pull out where you're really intensive, you're accelerating, where you're really focusing on these particular students. So what we're going to talk about today is more a tier two instructional planning and how we can meet the needs in a mixed ability classroom of gifted students that we have amongst other students as well. So what do I mean by tiered lesson? Well, to simplify it, I'm going to take the tier out of it and call them different levels. So a tiered lesson has 3 different levels to it. And so level number 2 is the at grade level. So you can think of it as this is what the content standard talks about. This is the expectations. This is where everyone needs to get. Level 3 is when you're taking your students who are struggling and may need supports in order to get up to level 2. So they may need some additional material. They may need some direct instruction. There's all sorts of strategies that you can use in order to scaffold them up to the level 2. Level 1, on the other hand, is the above expectations, or you can even think of it as above grade level. And so what you're doing here is you're taking that general level 2 or the grade level, and if a student is already there, where do you take them? Because you don't just want to teach them what they already know. So you take them to that level 1 and you add enrichment, you add, and it's not just adding more of something, it's adding something different. It's giving them something to do that's going to be deeper, or something that's going to allow them to explore a little bit more, something that's going to challenge them with higher level thinking. But we are trying to take them from a level 2 because they may already be there, or they get there much quicker than others, and take them up to a level 1. So that's how you should view these tiered lessons, is that because we can't make 30 lesson plans for 30 kids. That would be insane. And that would really cause burnout very quickly. So just think of your classroom as divided up into 3 parts. And keep in mind, these tiers and these levels change all the time. So don't just assume the gifted kids are going to end up in the level 1. There may be some gifted kids who are really struggling and need to be at the level 3. There may be some students that typically struggle who, just because something new is introduced that they know a lot about, they may end up in the level 1. So it needs to be flexible grouping when you're thinking about these tiers. It should not just be this student is always getting a level 1, this student's always getting a level 2, and so on and so forth. So it's going to be flexible and fluid at all times. There are different ways to think about your tiering, and here are 6 of them I'm going to talk about very briefly. And so there's the challenge level. This is the level of thinking you're asking someone to do. There's the complexity. Are you asking them to do something simple or something with more complexity to it and more difficulty? It could be the process. So how are students doing the learning? That can be divided into 3 parts as well. It might be the product. So what are they turning in? Is their expectation for your level 3 student, your level 2 student, your level 1 student? Could be the outcome. And what I mean by outcome is, given the same materials, are students able to create something different? And on the converse side of that are resources. Do we give different resources to different students, depending upon their needs and their abilities? And so when you're doing your planning for tiered lessons, this is 6 ways that you can alter the tiers and the different levels to make sure that you are meeting the needs of those particular students. When you go to create a tiered lesson, it kind of breaks down into 4 parts. So you, of course, start with your learning goal. What is my learning goal? And once you create that base level learning goal, there's 2 different ways to think about this. So you need to first assess your student readiness. Because this is flexible grouping, we need to give pre-assessments. And I have a Todd talk on pre-assessments that you can take a look at. But we're taking these pre-assessments to determine what does student readiness look like. Once you've established that, there's kind of 2 ways you can approach this tiering. You can say, I'm going to set the high bar, and then everyone needs to try to get here. And then I will scaffold to a level 2 and to a level 3 to get us up to the 1. Or depending upon the abilities in your classroom, you may just have a base activity, which is your level 2, and then you introduce enrichment to get people up to level 1, and you introduce supports for people at the level 3 to get them up to level 2. But the expectation in this case is that everyone would just get to the base level. Then you just, from this information, because we always want to gather data, you design the tiered activities using one of the 6 methods I talked about. There are other things to consider, such as how do you flexibly group these students? Where is the scaffolding going to take place, or the enrichment going to take place? What does that look like? You want to, of course, incorporate student choice as much as possible. This makes differentiation more organic and easier to achieve if you have students who are making the choices. And then you also want to make sure that you're assessing appropriately and reflect at the end. So reflect on what went on. What did the students learn? Was it the best way to set it up, and so on and so forth? So those are, in a nutshell, that is tiered lessons. One thing to consider are what are called the non-negotiables. No matter what, level 1, level 2, number 3, no matter what. How you should not think about it is level 1, it's lots of challenge. Level 2 is a little bit of challenge. And level 3 is no challenge. That's not how you should think of this. All students need to be challenged with the level that they're at and their ability and skill set. So these are kind of the non-negotiable, these 5. First off, all the tiers should build understanding. Now, the level of understanding may vary, but they should all build an understanding. And some students may already be here, so you have to build it up to here. Some students may be here, and you have to build up to here. It's just going to depend on the level of your students as determined by the pre-assessments. All of them have to have key concepts, skills, and ideas that would be expected for someone to learn this particular learning objective. They all need to be equally interesting and engaging. Sometimes it feels like level 1 is really fun stuff and level 3 is really boring stuff like worksheets. So that's not how it should be. They should be equally engaging and interesting. It should be fair in the amount of work. So we punish the level 3 when it comes to fun and whatnot, but we punish the level 1 a lot of time because we're like, oh, we'll just differentiate by adding more. We'll add 10 more problems to this set of 10 questions, or I'll add 3 more pages to this particular paper. Adding more is not the answer. It does need to be different, and it's not just a matter of expecting it to be done quicker or giving them more time. The tiered lessons should be designed where there's a fair amount of work going on. It should be different. It's in the term, differentiation. Lastly, they should be different but related experiences. So in other words, in the end, all students will learn the base. There just may be some that are learning above the base as well. But everyone should be coming to this related experience. They may just get there in different ways. So there you have it. Those are tiered lessons. If you want to create your own tiered lesson, I have a tiered lesson plan template, which you can find on the website, thegiftedguide.com. It's a PDF. You can simply print that up, and it helps you to kind of visualize what these different levels will look like when you're creating your tiered lessons.